We are back from the break and ready for some more pivotal change, and even more so, ready for some more of the Boss Diplomat. So, Talyn, we're going to keep this conversation rocking and rolling, but for the sake of the audience, I want them to see your mug.
This is me in mug form. I'm not bossy. I'm just aggressively helpful.
I love it. We have good conversations over the break about lots of things, and I think part of branding is how you identify, articulate, and change the way people view you from what an outside perspective might be. I'm going to define myself. Somebody else isn't going to define me, and I think your mug does that very well, just like, of course, you and your entire brand does. So, with that being said, if we can look at some way to indicate that my brand is working, my brand is having success and influence, are there some type of indicators or qualities that seem to show their faces that tell me things are working, a benchmark has been reached over time?
Yeah, so it really depends on the individual's goals because everyone has different goals. Money should never be an indicator of how successful you are because that can disappear in a heartbeat. So I do this practice with my clients. I meet them at least a year or two from when I last worked on their brand. And I would ask them the very same question. What has changed for you since we finished working on your brand? And one of the biggest things that my clients tell me is I had the courage and the confidence to write a book or host a TV show or host a podcast, hosting, not just being in those shows. Or people see me differently, they view me differently, they perceive me differently in a much more positive light. That's also another indication of success. And of course, less people saying no to you and more people saying yes to you, which is exactly what you want. So your market value actually goes up because of the way you've strategically put your brand together. That is a good indicator of success in your brand.
I love that so much. So you're effectively finding ways in what you just said to measure the growth of your influence. And so for me, in a lot of my materials, I teach something based off of a model called the sphere of influence. And your sphere is 360 degrees every direction, and it grows over time as you increase your certain qualities in yourself. And so you're echoing the same thing that the audience has possibly heard from me before, is that you're going to look at now you're not just a guest on a podcast, but you're hosting a podcast, or maybe you're just a recurring contributor. You've got new editorials. You'll be asking to give speeches. Your friends are referring people to you. People are starting to follow, pay attention, and utilize. And of course, money comes with that value. And I couldn't agree with you more that money should not be your motivator. It should be a happy byproduct, right? So I like that. I like that a lot. So if we're going to do some more assessment, tell us about some effective ways that I can do an assessment or I can preemptively. So maybe I'm just starting with the conscious effort of developing my brand. What is a way I can say, hey, I want to assess this in the future and maybe actually set some preemptive future looking benchmarks for myself to say by 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, this is the impact, the reach, or the activity I would like to be engaging in.
Okay, so I have another cool homework that people can try. Considering
Okay,
that
good.
it is just the start of the new year, having a vision board is actually a really great visual way to get to your goals, not just quicker but consistently. So what I did, and this reel is actually available on my Instagram at Boss Diplomat.
Yeah.
Create a vision board, but split it into four parts. The first part is wealth. The second part is health. The third part is relationship, and the final part is self. So because you're able to compartmentalize those four different areas, things that you want to achieve in 2025, that could be something as simple as calling your parents more consistently. Get a picture of that, stick it on the board, add quotes that resonate very, very much with you, and then put that in your bedroom. And that's the first thing you see when you wake up and the last thing you see before bed. It is so hard to ignore.
Yes. Make it where you're going to trip over it is kind of what one of the things that I tell people is like, if I have to do something, whether I'm in my office, so we have a rule, no papers on the floor, right?
Mm.
No papers on the floor, because as I told you before the show, we're in a paper industry. The IRS is going to send me paper. I have to deal with paper. I can't be completely virtual. But if I have to have something go out today, I turn and I exit my desk and I will put a piece of paper on the floor. So I literally have to step or trip over it. Right. And I cannot go home without that thing. If my wife says, bring this home from work, I have to put that to where I trip over it in order to be successful, right? Otherwise, man brain kicks in. I forget to bring my wife whatever she asked me. Okay. And though, so I tell people you have to put it to where you're going to trip over it. So your vision board in the metaphorical sense needs to be put in a position where people are going to trip over it every day and therefore accomplish their vision.
But having those 4 compartments is what makes this one very different, because
Yes.
it's
Love it.
very easy to say, I want to make this much, but then not know how to do that. But then you're forgetting self-care. Then you're forgetting the relationships around you. Then you're forgetting the fact that your health is behind that wealth. So it's important that you have a balance when it comes to what you vision for yourself for the rest of this year.
I think the quadrants are crazy important, crazy important. Now, you and I can have conversations about quadrants and putting things in quadrants forever because I'm mathematical, analytical, and that's how I organize a lot of things. I think tetrahedrons are one of the most powerful geometric shapes, and of course, there's 4 sides there. So I love it. You just made me nerd out for just a second. So thank you for that. The next part I want is as you go to achieve these goals, you have this influence, you've got these metrics that are tracking it, you've got this vision board that is making you achieve it in all 4 areas. Now you get to the point where, okay, some big things are happening. I'm so big to increase my bandwidth. People are noticing me and people want to partner up with me. Maybe there's an opportunity for a merger so I can skyrocket to that next level. Now comes in a difficult game of balance. If I do a merger or take on a partner, they are not the exact same core that I am. And the brand is myself, and I now take on a partner or two, it's selves. How do you handle situations like that when a brand is established and growing, and here comes an opportunity that can't be missed?
The question will be, how much do you want it? How much control do you want to relinquish? And how willing are you to step away from this when you're giving up 100% of that shareholder or that power? I think those are the questions that you have to ask, because your personal brand is going to move with you, whether you sell a company or not. That's something that you have defined. It's very strategic and it moves with you no matter what you're doing. It doesn't have to be related to a business. You can have that merger, or you can buy out a business, or you can sell a business, but the very core of who you are and your personal brand, that's not for sale. That's not what you're selling. It's the operations, what is really what you're selling, or the products within it, or the infrastructure. The person that cannot be sold is you. Your name can be sold, but not you. So how much of that power do you want to give up? That's what you have to decide.
I really like the mental basically ice pick you stuck right in there. You are not for sale. Some of your image or some of your name, or of course your product or operations could be for sale, but you are not for sale. And mentally, you need to be able to separate yourself from whatever that ultimate product or service is, so that you're not selling yourself and leaving a void or attempting to change who you are and become something that goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is the exact reason you got into it, the exact reason why you became what you want to become. So I really, that was a little bit heavier advice, which I really appreciate that. So I like going heavy too. So let's continue down that road of, things start to change, businesses are growing, market dynamics, I could say myself, I'm in the accounting world as one of my primary businesses in the consulting business. And all of a sudden, let's say poof, there's a new election and you don't have to pay taxes anymore. Everybody gets a flat 10% tax. No advisor like me is needed to save you tax liability because it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's 10%. Poof, my whole world changes. And my brand was, I'm a tax advisor. That's pretty extreme. But let's say the industry, the market does change. There's some regulation to who you are, what you do. How do you have to pivot yourself, keeping the core center of who you are, but now shifting because market industry demands make what you used to do not as viable?
There's audiences that might need you somewhere else. So again, you're not stuck in that geographical area that you're in. If you've already got a brand, that brand is going to be carried with you no matter where you are in the world. So that's the first thing. And the second thing that I always advise my clients to do is don't put your eggs in one basket. Not your niche per se, but you're actively building a business with your brand as the magnet. But always ensure that you have multiple passive income streams that are coming into your life outside of your brand, because that's going to be the buffer that keeps you afloat for you and your family outside of your personal brand. Because your personal brand shouldn't be doing the heavy lifting. Your personal brand should be attracting the right opportunities to you, right? That's the magnet. So your magnet's always going to be attracting something. It's also going to be repelling something. So you want to make sure it's repelling the right thing, but it's attracting opportunities. But you can't rely on that one magnet to pull in everything, because if there's no more magnets left, you're stuck, and that's what you're suggesting. So yeah, build passive income streams, learn about that. And Ryan, being in finance and accounting, he will know exactly how to help you build that passive income stream. It's fundamental.
Might know a thing or two about that. That's good. So wonderful advice. Don't back yourself in a corner or contain yourself in a box. Geography is nothing special or magical that has to be held on to. Build yourself multiple streams of revenue that your brand supports those things and attract people to them. And I really like, that's a whole other conversation that I'm going to put a pin in, is that how to, like a magnet, repel things from you that are not meant to be in your life. So let's put a mark right there. I'm going to save that one for next time. So Talyn, how do people get a hold of you? They want to do everything that you just said, and they want you to be the person that brings it to them. Where do we find you?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So jump on my website. It's www.bossdiplomat.com. You will see exactly how I work. My 100-day branding process is built for small business owners. I build your brand, a powerful personal brand, in 100 days. And if you want to have a chat, you can find me on Instagram at Boss Diplomat. And last but not least, if you want to get in the hot seat, I host a podcast called The Fairy Boss Mother Show. Get your brand reviewed for free. Get in the hot seat. If you want the kitty gloves on, I can give you a feather dusting review, but no one ever takes that option. So take up the challenge.
I love it. Thank you very much for coming back with us. And we'll be seeing you in the future, I know for sure. Everyone else, you sit tight and buckle in. We're only halfway through Pivotal Change. We'll see you right after this break.